Hey guys, and welcome back to the Q&A. So, if you have a question or anything like that, please leave it down in the comment thingy, and I'll add it to the big list. But today we have 3 or 4 different questions, and they're actually all quite good. So the first one is from, if I can just read here, Warlock. That's the name, yeah. And he says, what do you think the best race and class combos are from a lore standpoint? Well, first of all, let's tackle the humans. Paladins, we have the Knights of the Silver Hand, so humans essentially founded the whole Paladin thing. So, yeah, I think Paladins are probably one of the best fits there. Then, of course, Warrior. There's something iconic about a human warrior. That said, nearly every race has some sort of standing army, so there is going to be a warrior class, I guess, in nearly every race. And then we have the priests. This sort of goes hand in hand with the paladins, but the humans sort of, they did find the whole light thing, and they're really quite enamored by it all, so yeah, that's what I think for humans. Next, we have Night Elves. First of all, Druid, I think that's the obvious one. We have characters like Malfurion, and the fact they live in the forests, and they just have a very long history of Druidism. Then the Hunter, we have the Night Elf Sentinels, and that sort of thing. It's kind of interesting, a lot of the time it's been the male Druids and the female Sentinels, if you remember back in Warcraft 3. I think most of your army were the Sentinels, or at least for a lot of the Night Elf campaign. So that's quite cool, and I think they're actually a really interesting race. Perhaps maybe some of their depth was lost in World of Warcraft, but I still think they're pretty cool. And then, of course, Priestesses of Elune, so that's Tyrande, etc. Yeah, there's Night Elves covered. Next, there's Gnomes, and Gnomes, they're a funny one. You see, Gnomes were not really a race in any of the previous Warcrafts much, and like how the reason they're not in the original cinematic is because they hadn't even been added to the game at that stage. Like, they really did come in late to the boat. So really, Mage and Warlock are the two that I think probably fit the most. In terms of the gnomes we see in-game, there is no Tinkerer class, and Blizzard actually said that they feel Tinkerer would be too whimsical to put into the game. So I think we really are just left with Mage and Warlock for the gnome. Next, there's Dwarves, and I think the Dwarf Hunter is, of course, iconic. So, yes, absolutely. Hell, even the intro cinematic Dwarf was a Hunter. There's that. Then, Warrior. I think Dwarves, there's something about a dwarf with an axe, Gimli, that's just kind of iconic, so I think they particularly work well as a warrior. Then Paladins, after the Third War, and a lot of the Paladins ended up being dead, the Knights of the Silver Hand decided that they would start recruiting dwarves and showing them the ways of, I don't know, Paladinism, or whatever the hell you'd call it. So, yeah, there's quite a lot of dwarf paladins, and therefore there's also quite a lot of dwarf priests. Next, we have the Draenei. They are very much attuned to the light, so they are definitely paladins. Marode, who is the Draenei we see in the Burning Crusade cinematic, and who is actually going to feature in Warlords, he is a paladin. And then, of course, priests as well, because they are really just two sides of the same coin when it comes to, like, belief in the light. Then shamans, Nobundu, who is one of the broken, taught shamanism, or the ways of shamanism, to the Draenei people on Outland. And that happened before they kind of got rocketed off to Azeroth, so I think they really are a perfect fit. Who else? Yes, also perhaps Mage. Draenei are naturally extremely powerful mages, and the problem is I'm just not sure how well that would be accepted within their society, because kind of magic, arcane, Burning Legion, all sort of fiddle around together, I suppose. But yeah, they would make great mages, we know that for a fact. Then for Worgen, I think they make perfect druids, because their actual whole creation on the Scythe of Elune, I know that's tied in with druids in some way, I think, so yeah, Worgen druids, definitely. And then rogues. I think they just make perfect rogues. They have the whole stealth thing going on, they're like wolves. They definitely seem very nimble, and like they can move near silently if they want to. At least that's the impression I get from them. However, they can, of course, be giant hulking beasts, meaning that they are perfect warriors. Then we have the Pandaren, and they're monks. I mean, that's really that. Every single main Pandaren character we see is kind of a monk. Like, we have the priesty person in that, what's she called, Cloud Singer or something. But generally, yeah, the Pandaren are monks. That's just what makes sense, and nearly their entire race is based off the whole, like, Chinese monk sort of style thing. Next we have warriors. No, we don't have warriors, we have orcs. Orcs make great warriors. They're giant big brutes, they're green, they're fucking good at that sort of thing. They also make fantastic shamans. That was their original thing in Draenor. They were really warriors and shamans. Also hunters. The whole shamanism thing means they're quite tied to the earth and the elements, so they make pretty good hunters as well. And next we have trolls, and really I wasn't too sure about trolls. I of course know hunter, sort of. Vol'jin himself is a shadow hunter. That just seems like a hunter that's got lots of poisons and darky, shadowy kind of things going on. That sort of thing, I guess. So yeah, trolls make pretty good hunters. They also make good priests. Not priests in the light, but they have their whole Loa thing going on, which they've been doing for many years, so I suppose that makes sense. Then we have the Tauren. These guys make great druids because they are affiliated with Cenarius, and a lot of the Cenarian circle are Tauren. They're also great shamans. Basically, those kind of earthy classes, they all fit the Tauren very well. They're also fantastic hunters, and yeah, that's the Tauren. Essentially, if it's connected to the earth and that sort of thing, there's a good chance the Tauren are going to be involved. Then with undead, basically similar to the humans minus paladins, because paladins actually cannot willingly become undead. There's been a decent amount of undead priests. A lot of them have forgone using the light in its normal sense and have moved on to the shadow style of things. And then those who actually do use the normal light, it's this whole penance thing. I'm not really specifically sure about the lore. Other things that fit undead, I guess there's a kind of, like, rogues sort of fit well, but really I don't think any class particularly fits them too good. Let's see, next we have Blood Elves. Paladins, via the whole Blood Knight thing. That, of course, makes sense. Mages, they are ex-Highborn, meaning they are very, very much a fan of the arcane energy, so they make perfect mages. Then we also see quite a lot of them being hunters and rogues, and the reason I say hunter and rogue is because the Rangers of Kel'Thuzad were sort of, I don't know if they were famed, but they were certainly very heavily mentioned in lore, and a Ranger is basically a mix of a hunter and a rogue, I guess. Weird jaw. Ugh, annoying. Anyway, next we have the Warlock. Of course, I think they fit Blood Elves quite well. A big sect of Blood Elves did leave and affiliate themselves with the Burning Legion, and really becoming a Warlock is just... kind of using demons in a similar manner. So there's that. What else? By the way, if it looks like I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I've got a whole bunch of notes, just for this one question, because it's a kind of note-based one. So yeah, Blood Elves done, and finally we have Goblins. Honestly, I don't think anything fits Goblins too well, because they're just kind of boring to me. I guess Rogues fit Goblins. And then, one thing, this guy, Joshua354, said... basically a similar question, but also, do I have any specific race class combo that I'm looking to boost up for Warlords of Draenor? The main answer is no, I'm not particularly sure, but I would like the idea of a Dwarf Shaman. The only issue is that I kind of want to level up through those Dwarf zones so that I can do better videos on them when the time comes. So there's a good chance I actually won't use my boost on that, I'm just not particularly sure. The next question is from Halabarde, who says, do you think they will release a filler patch between now and Warlords of Draenor? And if they do, what might this contain for the player base? Or would it just be things like the dungeon? Basically, would it be kind of like 5.4.2? The answer is yes, but the other part of the answer is it's probably not what you want. Patch 5.5 was originally planned, and this would have contained maybe some, like, plot things, really, that would have told us what's going on with Garrosh and the trial. And that whole thing, patch 5.5 is not happening, at least in the sense that it would have been. They've decided to basically butcher that patch, sacrifice it, not do it, and put more resources into getting Warlords out quicker, which could, I suppose, be the right move. So that's a thing. There will, of course, be a pre-expansion patch. I'm not too sure if this will still be called 5.5, and it'll just be a cut-down version of what they originally wanted to do, or maybe the 5.5 style things will just be rolled into 6.0, but essentially it's going to be quite short from when the patch drops until Warlords releases. Did I just say Warlords? That's not good. Anyway, Warlords releases. In terms of what it can contain... They did say we're going to have story elements that tie Garrosh's sort of story together, and that it was a tweet recently actually, the whole Visions of Time thing where Anduin releases Garrosh, that's kind of indicative, but there's definitely more story to fit around. So yeah, that's what's going to be happening for Warlords. In terms of the other things the patch will bring, I'm not sure, but if it is that patch 6.0, then it will probably bring all of the relevant numbers changes, so perhaps... any class, talent, spec changes, that sort of thing, they will be in 6.0, and then also any old world changes, not that there probably won't be any, and the item squish, it will come, so that'll be kind of cool. The next question is from the Insanity 180, Ooh, so much insanity. He says, do you think World of Warcraft is worth coming back to from a PvP perspective? I've always played PvP mainly and love Battlegrounds, Wintergrasp, and Arena. Do you find Arena is hard without real-life friends to find competitive players? And do you feel the competitiveness of PvP has improved since pre-Kata? Well, I never played PvP before Cataclysm, so that's not really one thing I can ask. What I will say, though, is that PvP is actually getting a lot of changes. I feel that PvP was probably one of the most neglected things in Mists of Pandaria. If you are a PvPer, let me know what you think, because at least from my perspective, looking at, I guess, that whole half of the game, not a whole deal was added. There was like one or two thingies, battlegrounds, that's the thing. One or two of those were added, and that was kind of it. That's not enough, really. If that's your whole game for 2 years or 1.5 years, not good enough. So yeah, PvP definitely suffered a bit in Mists of Pandaria, but one of the nice things that they're doing, it's not a push on PvP, but they're definitely going to be serving that corner of the market quite a bit more in Warlords. So the first thing that they're adding is called Ashran. Ashran, I guess it's kind of similar to the kind of gameplay that you enjoyed with Wintergrasp. But the thing about Wintergrasp and Tolbarad is that they ended up just being battlegrounds, essentially. They were battlegrounds that were in the world, which I think had its own inherent value, but never felt like the big, giant, kind of long-lasting siege that I suppose a lot of players may have wanted. This is being changed. Ashran. Ashran is persistent, it is never ending, and it's got loads and loads and loads of different kinds of objectives and things that you can do. So for an example, when you kill players, you get resources. You can maybe use those to build a siege engine to go and attack a certain enemy fortification or keep. So that's one kind of objective, destroying enemy bases. I'm sure there will be ones to do with assassinating enemy, like NPC character thingies. Fucking jaw. Why does it do this? It's really annoying. It only seems to be when I turn on the fucking camera. Anyway, so, yeah, there's that, Ashran. In terms of other things that we could do there, I'm not sure. They did spend a lot of time talking about gathering resources, killing other players, getting, like, rank ups and stuff, then being able to make really, really badass siege engines. They're also probably going to be rolling in some more old-school Altaric Valley-style things, so maybe there's mines to capture. There's some events, like in AV, if you capture like different things and collect lots of items and hand them in, you can upgrade your foot soldiers, so maybe that will happen. But essentially, yeah, Ashran's going to have a lot of depth, and that'll be cool. If you are a hardcore, like a really hardcore arena guy, then you're going to have a new thing called it's either Trial of the Gladiator or Path. I think it's Trial, and what this does is actually really cool. It's only available on certain times of the week, and this is basically so they can directly monitor win trading and that kind of thing to make sure it's a really ultra competitive environment. So there's that. Everyone's gear. Yes, everyone's gear is completely scaled down and normalized so that it's basically a skill-only game. And it's very much based on ratings and that kind of thing, and I'm assuming when you get higher ratings and you get kills and that sort of thing, it will be really good for the amount of, like, vanity items and things that you'll get access to, maybe titles, mounts, achievements, the whole slew of things, really. And it's great if you want to just play competitive PvP and you don't want to worry about the whole shitty situation of just losing because you didn't have the gear, which can happen because maths. So there's that. Of course, the original arena system is going to be the same, and I'd imagine they're probably going to add a new arena battleground place, and then, of course, a new battleground. I think they really do need to start adding 1 or 2 more battlegrounds because, well, it's weird. The battleground pool kind of would get to the stage where it's just so big that you're not going to see new ones that often, but I didn't find the Deepwind Gorge to be that compelling. I mean, it had some cool mechanics in it, but I never thought they really translated to fantastic gameplay. So, yeah, there's that. We're running on 14 minutes here, and that's pretty much me through all of the questions that I plan to get to. So thank you very much for asking them. If you have any questions that you'd like me to get to, then please leave them in the comments, and I will add them to the big, delicious Word document of questions and eventually get to them. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.